It began on a night no one would ever forget. The news spread like wildfire across Nigeria. Television anchors were interrupting programs mid-broadcast. Social media was flooded with one name, the Coles. Videos, photos, and voice notes filled every corner of the internet. A billionaire father and his son, once praised as role models, respected across the country, were suddenly the center of a scandal so deep, so disturbing, that people could hardly believe it was true. Inside the towering Cole estate in Ikoyi, Lagos, police cars surrounded the gate. Flashing red and blue lights bounced off the mansion's white walls. Reporters gathered outside like a swarm of bees, shouting questions into the night air. "Is it true, sir? Did you know about the cover-up? Where is the son? Is he still in Nigeria? Who's the girl in the video?" The mansion's front door opened. Two officers led Mr. Richard Cole, the billionaire himself, out in handcuffs. His face, the same face that had once smiled on magazine covers beside presidents and governors, now looked pale and defeated. Behind him, his only son, Adrian Cole, followed. He didn't say a word. His eyes were hollow, his jaw clenched. People shouted his name, cursed him, and threw things as the police pushed him into a van. The crowd screamed, cameras flashed. The once golden family was now the nation's shame. A journalist's voice echoed above the noise. "Breaking news. The billionaire father and son, Richard and Adrian Cole, have just been arrested over the shocking revelation that—" She paused, her voice trembling. That the tragedy the nation mourned 5 years ago was not an accident, but a secret they both tried to bury. The crowd gasped. Someone screamed, "Jesus Christ!" Another whispered, "So it's true?" Inside the van, Adrian turned to his father, his voice shaking. "Dad, we shouldn't have hidden it. We should have told the truth back then." Richard glared at him. "Keep quiet, not here." But it was too late. The cameras had captured that single moment, father and son exchanging a look that revealed everything the world wanted to know. Hours later, the entire nation was awake. Every household, from Lagos to Enugu, from Kano to Port Harcourt, was talking about the same thing. How did one of the richest, most powerful families in the country end up in this kind of scandal? How did a man who built hospitals, schools, and charities hide something so evil under his own roof? To understand how the Cole empire fell apart, one had to go back, years before the flashing cameras, the police sirens, and the shame. Back to when everything still looked perfect. Back to when Adrian Cole was the pride of his father, a brilliant young man just returning from London after earning his degree. The family was admired by everyone. Mr. Richard Cole was called the nation's builder. His construction company had built more roads and bridges than anyone else in Nigeria. His wife, Lady Evelyn, ran one of the largest charities for children in Africa. The Coles seemed untouchable, the perfect family. Until one day something happened that no one saw coming. It started with a single woman, a maid who worked in the Cole mansion. Her name was Naomi, quiet, gentle, always kept to herself. She had come from a small village in Benue state to work and send money home to her family. But one night, something happened in that mansion that Naomi could never forget. And from that night on, her life, and the lives of the Coles, would never be the same again. Because what she saw in the master bedroom that night was the beginning of a secret that would one day shock the entire nation. That night, the rain was heavy over Lagos. The thunder rolled above the Cole mansion, and flashes of lightning lit up the glass walls of the billionaire's home. Naomi, the young maid, was in the laundry room folding clothes. She worked quietly. She always did. The Coles paid well, but the house rules were strict. No talking loudly. No wandering upstairs. No asking questions. But that night, something strange happened. Around 10:45 p.m., she heard a scream, faint but sharp, coming from upstairs. At first she froze. Then she heard a crash. It sounded like a glass falling and breaking. Naomi hesitated. "Maybe it's Madame Evelyn," she whispered to herself. "Maybe she slipped." She hurried toward the staircase barefoot. But as she reached the top, she saw something that made her stop in her tracks. The lights in the hallway were dim. The billionaire's son, Adrian, was standing outside his father's private study, breathing heavily. His shirt was half-buttoned, his expression confused and scared. "Sir," Naomi said softly, "are you okay?" Adrian turned sharply. His eyes looked wild. "Go back downstairs," he said quickly, his voice shaky. Naomi stepped back. "I heard someone scream." "I said go downstairs," he shouted this time, his tone deeper. Naomi turned to leave, but just then, the door behind him creaked open, and she saw Mr. Cole step out, his face pale, his hands trembling. There was something on his shirt, something dark. Blood. Naomi gasped, "Sir, you're bleeding!" But the billionaire's eyes were cold. "You saw nothing," he said quietly. He took a slow step toward her, and Adrian stood behind him, silent. The fear in Naomi's chest grew heavier. Her legs wanted to move, but they wouldn't. "Please, sir, I didn't see anything," she stammered. "I just heard a noise." Mr. Cole reached into his pocket and pulled out a white envelope. "Take this," he said, his tone low but firm. "Go home tomorrow. Don't come back." Naomi stared at the envelope. It was thick with money. Too much money for one night's silence. Tears filled her eyes. "Sir, what happened in there?" Mr. Cole looked at her one last time. "It's better you never ask." He turned, walked into his room and shut the door. Naomi's hands trembled as she clutched the envelope. She wanted to tell someone. She wanted to scream. But who would believe her? She was just a maid. He was the most powerful man in the country. The next morning, she packed her small bag and left the mansion without saying goodbye. But even after she returned to her village, she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the same image. Blood on Mr. Cole's shirt and his son's terrified face. Years passed. Naomi never spoke about that night. She got married, had a child, and tried to move on. But the memory haunted her. Then one morning, 5 years later, she woke up to the sound of her radio. The headline made her drop the cup she was holding. Breaking news. Billionaire Richard Cole and his son, Adrian Cole, have been arrested in connection to the mysterious death of Lady Evelyn Cole, which was ruled an accident 5 years ago. Naomi's mouth fell open. The radio host continued. According to leaked reports, evidence has emerged suggesting that Lady Evelyn's death was not accidental, but the result of a family secret covered up by her husband and son. Naomi's hands began to shake. Her husband looked at her. "What's wrong?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "I knew it. I saw something that night. And now the truth is coming out." But what Naomi didn't know, what no one knew yet, was that the secret went much deeper than Lady Evelyn's death. Because the truth wasn't just about what happened that night. It was about what the father and son had been hiding for years before it. And when it finally came out, it would tear apart the entire country. The arrest of Richard and Adrian Cole was the biggest story Nigeria had ever seen. From morning talk shows to late-night headlines, everyone was talking about it. But behind all the noise, one person sat quietly in a corner of a police station, clutching a worn-out handbag, Naomi. She had come forward. After years of silence, she could no longer carry the weight of what she saw that night. When the police called her in, she told them everything. The scream, the blood, the envelope, and the warning. But as she spoke, the investigators exchanged worried glances. There was something they were not saying. "Madam Naomi," one of the detectives said softly, "there's more to this case than what you saw." Naomi frowned. "What do you mean?" The detective sighed and opened a brown file. Inside were photos. Old photos of Lady Evelyn Cole, the billionaire's late wife. "She didn't die of a fall," he said. "That's what the autopsy says. But look at this." He pushed a photo toward her. It showed bruises, faint but clear, on Evelyn's arms and neck. Naomi covered her mouth in shock. "Oh my God." The detective continued. "The night she died, Mr. Cole claimed she slipped down the stairs, but neighbors heard shouting before the fall. And now, with your statement, we have reason to believe she was already unconscious before she fell." Naomi's heart raced. She whispered, "So he killed her?" The detective looked away. "We don't know yet. But we found something else. Something in his son's room." He slid another file across the table. Inside was a small photograph of Adrian, standing beside a young woman, smiling, holding hands. "Who is she?" Naomi asked. "Her name was Miriam Adeyemi," the detective replied. "A medical student. She disappeared 3 months before Evelyn's death." Naomi's eyebrows furrowed. "You mean she's missing?" The detective nodded slowly. "And the last phone call she made was to Adrian Cole." The room went quiet. Naomi felt a chill crawl down her spine. "I don't understand," she said softly. "What does a missing girl have to do with the mother's death?" The detective's eyes met hers. "That's the question we're trying to answer, because we found Miriam's necklace inside Lady Evelyn's drawer." Naomi's eyes widened. "Inside her drawer? How did it get there?" He sighed. "We believe Lady Evelyn found out something. Something about her son and Miriam. Something that made her confront Adrian that night." Naomi whispered, "And that's when Mr. Cole stepped in." The detective nodded gravely. "Exactly. We believe Lady Evelyn threatened to expose whatever her son was hiding, and in trying to silence her, both father and son crossed a line they could never return from." Naomi leaned back, tears filling her eyes. It wasn't just about greed or power anymore. This was something darker, something that showed how far people could go to protect their image. She whispered, "All these years they lived like nothing happened." The detective nodded. "They fooled everyone, until now." Across town, inside a cold holding cell, Adrian Cole sat on a metal bench, his head in his hands. His father paced in front of him, furious. "I told you not to talk to anyone," Richard snapped. "Dad, it's over," Adrian said quietly. "They found the necklace. They know." Richard turned sharply. "They suspect. That's all. As long as we stay quiet, they can't prove anything." Adrian looked up at him, his voice shaking. "You don't get it, do you? I can't keep living like this. Every time I close my eyes, I see her face." "Enough," Richard barked. "You will not say a word. I built this family. I built everything we have. You will not destroy it." Adrian stood up. "You already did." For the first time, the great Richard Cole, the man everyone respected, had no words. Because deep down, he knew his son was right. And what he didn't know was that a video, one recorded years ago by Miriam before she vanished, had just resurfaced online. A video that would reveal the truth about both of them to the entire world. At exactly 7:32 a.m. the next morning, millions of Nigerians woke up to the same shocking notification. Leaked video, the real truth about the Cole family. Within minutes, it was everywhere. YouTube, X, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp groups, and even radio stations. People clicked the link, expecting rumors. But what they saw made the nation go silent. The video began with a young woman's voice. Soft, trembling, but clear. "My name is Miriam Adeyemi," she said. "If you're watching this, something has happened to me. Please don't let my story die." Her face came into view, a beautiful girl in her early 20s, with gentle eyes and a worried expression. "I made a mistake," she continued. "I fell in love with Adrian Cole, the son of the great billionaire, Richard Cole. I thought he loved me too, until I found out his father didn't approve." She paused, tears filling her eyes. "Mr. Cole called me one evening. He said he wanted to talk, to clear things up. When I got to their mansion, things changed." Her breathing grew heavy. "I heard shouting upstairs. I tried to leave, but Adrian stopped me. He said his father would never let me go." The video suddenly glitched, but then another part appeared. It was darker, recorded secretly. The camera shook as Miriam whispered into it. "They're fighting. Lady Evelyn is screaming at them. I think she knows." Then, a door slammed, a muffled cry, and the video ended. No one could believe it. It was the final proof, the missing link that connected everything Naomi had seen, everything the detectives suspected, and everything the Coles had tried to bury. By noon, The entire country was in chaos. Protesters filled the streets holding signs that read, "Justice for Miriam," and "No one is above the law." Even the president released a statement. No wealth, no name, no legacy can protect those who destroy innocent lives. Justice will prevail. Meanwhile, inside the detention center, Richard Cole slammed his fist against the wall. "Who leaked that video?" he roared. Adrian sat quietly, staring at the floor. His father grabbed him by the collar. "Was it you?" Adrian's lips trembled. "I didn't leak it, Dad, but maybe it's time everyone knew." "You foolish boy," Richard shouted. "You'll destroy everything I built." Adrian looked up, his voice breaking. "You destroyed it the night you told me to hide the truth." Richard froze. For the first time, the power he once carried seemed to vanish. Before he could respond, the cell door opened. Two officers walked in, followed by the same detective who had questioned Naomi. "Mr. Cole," the detective said calmly, "you and your son will both be facing trial. The evidence is now public." Richard's chest rose and fell. He looked at his son, his eyes full of disbelief, and for the first time, fear. "This can't be happening," he whispered. The detective crossed his arms. "It's been happening for years, sir. You just didn't think the truth would catch up." That evening, Naomi sat in her small living room, tears streaming down her face as she watched the news. Miriam's photo appeared on the screen beside the headline, "Justice finally comes for Miriam Adeyemi." Her husband walked over, resting a hand on her shoulder. "You did the right thing, Naomi. You helped her get justice." But Naomi shook her head slowly. "It shouldn't have taken this long," she whispered. "The world only listened when it became a scandal. No one cared when she was just another poor girl." The camera on the TV panned across the angry crowds outside the courthouse, people shouting, weeping, demanding justice. And inside that courtroom, as cameras flashed and voices echoed, the billionaire father and son who once controlled everything stood side by side, powerless. But the story wasn't over yet, because the trial was about to reveal one more secret, something even darker, something no one in Nigeria could have ever imagined, a truth that would change everything. The courtroom was silent. Every seat was filled. Journalists, politicians, pastors, students, even foreign reporters. Everyone wanted to witness the end of the Cole dynasty. The judge entered, and all rose. "Case of the Federal Republic of Nigeria versus Richard and Adrian Cole," the clerk announced. Richard Cole sat stiffly in his dark suit, his eyes cold. Adrian sat beside him, looking nothing like the confident billionaire's son he once was. His face was pale. His fingers fidgeted nervously. Naomi sat quietly among the witnesses, her heart pounding. She had waited years for this day. The prosecutor stood. "Your Lordship, the evidence is clear. The video, the witness testimony, and the financial records all point to one truth. The victim, Miriam Adeyemi, did not disappear by accident. She was silenced after discovering a dark family secret." Whispers filled the room. Cameras clicked. The judge leaned forward. "And what secret is that, counsel?" The prosecutor turned slowly toward the defendant's table. "Your Lordship, the victim discovered that Adrian Cole was not just Mr. Cole's son. He was also his brother." The courtroom gasped. Even the judge froze for a moment. "What do you mean?" The prosecutor opened a folder and lifted a set of papers. "These are DNA results taken after Mr. Cole's arrest. They reveal that Adrian's biological mother was not Lady Evelyn Cole, but rather a woman who worked in the Cole mansion 28 years ago." Naomi's hand covered her mouth. Her eyes widened. "Oh my God," she whispered. The prosecutor continued. "Her name was Esther, a maid who mysteriously left the Cole household shortly before Evelyn gave birth. Documents show that she was paid off, her silence bought. Mr. Cole passed off the child as his wife's son to protect his image." The entire courtroom erupted in noise. People shouted, some cursed, others cried. Adrian turned to his father in disbelief. "Is that true?" Richard's face remained stone cold. It doesn't matter. What matters is, answer me, Adrian yelled, his voice shaking. Is it true you forced Mum out of this house after she gave birth to me? Richard's lips trembled. His eyes darted toward the judge, then back at his son. I did what I had to do, he said at last. You were a mistake, a scandal I couldn't allow to destroy my name. The room fell completely silent. Even the cameras stopped clicking. Adrian sat frozen. A single tear rolled down his cheek. All my life, I tried to make you proud, and you never once told me the truth. Richard tried to speak, but the judge slammed the gavel. Order in the court, the prosecutor spoke again. And when Miriam found out, when she discovered that Adrian's birth was a secret his father had kept from the world, she threatened to go public. That was why she was silenced. The judge looked directly at the father and son. This court has heard enough. He raised his hand and struck the gavel again. For the crimes of conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and the unlawful cover-up of a murder, this court finds Richard Cole and Adrian Cole guilty. Gasps filled the courtroom. Naomi began to cry. She didn't know if they were tears of relief or pain, maybe both. Because even though justice had finally come, it came at a terrible cost. Richard Cole, the billionaire who once controlled half of Nigeria's economy, stood up slowly, his hands trembling. He looked at his son and whispered, "You were supposed to protect the family." Adrian shook his head. "You were supposed to be a family." Two officers stepped forward, handcuffed them, and began to lead them out. As they walked past the crowd, a news reporter whispered into her microphone, "And that is how one of Nigeria's most powerful families fell. Not because of their enemies, but because of the secrets they kept from each other." Outside, the sky was cloudy, heavy with rain. Naomi stood on the courthouse steps, watching the police van drive away. For the first time in years, she felt something she hadn't felt before: peace. But deep down, she also knew something else. There were still countless other Coles out there, people hiding their sins behind money and power. And she whispered to herself, maybe one day, someone will have the courage to speak again. Before it's too late. The rain began to fall. The Cole mansion stood empty, its walls echoing with silence. And just like that, the truth that had been buried for decades finally destroyed everything built on lies. If you're loving this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next episode. More amazing stories are coming your way, full of drama, lessons, and emotions you'll love. So go ahead, subscribe now, and join the family.